3 frantic knocks cut through the storm just as snow buried the bottom half of my cabin door. Nobody should have been on that logging road after dark. I crossed the room before the 4th knock, leaving my weather notes open beside the radio. Wind drove powder through the porch light in white horizontal sheets. I opened the door only as far as the safety chain allowed. A woman stood there with one hand locked around the rail. Dark hair plastered to her cheek, city coat soaked through, jeans crusted with snow to the knees, one bootlace missing. "Are you hurt?" She shook her head once. Car slid into a ditch 2 miles down, maybe more. Her teeth clicked on the last word. I released the chain. Inside. She made it 1 step over the threshold before her knee buckled. I caught her elbow, waited until her boots were under her, then let go. My hands are numb. That matters more than the car. I moved a chair toward the wood stove and set a folded blanket over its back. There are dry expedition layers in the washroom. I'll leave a towel outside the door and stay here. Get out of anything wet before you sit down. She looked at me as if she was deciding whether to argue. Then another gust hit the cabin hard enough to rattle the shutters. Fine. While she changed in privacy, I checked the county bulletin. Road closure. Freezing rain under 6 inches of fresh snow. Cell towers down across the ridge. Forecast accumulation through Saturday night, another 3 feet. The woman had not walked into a bad evening. She had walked into a 72-hour problem. She came back wearing my spare thermal base layer and fleece pants, sleeves rolled once at the wrists. I put black coffee and hot broth on the table. Hands around the mug. She obeyed. Color returned slowly to her fingers. "Claire Morgan?" "Ethan Carter." Her eyes moved to the ice axes, avalanche probe, and expedition packs by the wall. "You live up here? Part of the year? What do you do?" "I guide high-altitude expeditions, Himalayas, Antarctica, cold weather training." That changed her next question. "Then you know whether I can walk back to my car?" "Yes." "And?" "No." Her jaw tightened. I rotated the paper topographical map toward her. "The road drops 600 feet before it reaches your ditch. Under the new snow is hard, freezing rain. Visibility is under 30 yards. You don't have winter boots, traction, insulation, or navigation gear. I have to get out by Monday." "Why?" Claire reached for the dead phone beside her coffee. 8 a.m. signing. She pressed the power button again. "Nothing. My company is merging. Adrian Foster, our executive vice president, has spent months trying to absorb my acquisitions division into his strategy group. I built that division from nothing." The stove popped. Claire stared at the black screen. "If I miss the objection and signing window, the company can trigger a reduced equity buyout under my employment agreement. Adrian gets my team, my pipeline, and control of the integration. I get a fraction of 10 years of equity." That was the first piece that mattered. Not important meeting. A mechanism. A person who benefited. A clock. "Does Foster know you're traveling?" He scheduled the original Monday meeting around it. "You think he'd move it?" Claire looked at me. "Adrian never wastes a calendar." I tapped the map. "My job makes getting you off this mountain safely my lane. Your merger is yours. If the weather opens, I can get you to the state highway. If it doesn't, I don't move you to protect a corporate deadline." "And communication?" "Cell towers are dead. I have a satellite messenger. Short text bursts when the cloud deck breaks." "Rescue?" "If you develop a medical problem or the shelter becomes unsafe, I activate rescue immediately. No permit, meeting, or equity number changes that." Claire held my gaze for 2 seconds. Then she nodded. "What can we do tonight?" That was when I decided she was not going to spend the storm waiting for me to solve her life. I slid a notebook across the table. "Build options?" Her eyebrows lifted. "For the company?" "For anything you can control from here." She took the pencil. The storm kept hammering the cabin. We started. Claire's assistant was Miles Cooper. Her corporate counsel was Priya Nair. The designated company secretary was Ellen Ward. Claire wrote all 3 names from memory. then listed what each person could legally do without her physical presence. I checked the satellite messenger. No signal. She opened her laptop. 39% battery. No internet, she said, but I downloaded the merger documents before I left. Good habit. I negotiate acquisitions. Paranoia is billed as preparation. I almost smiled. She found the buyout clause at page 47. Failure to execute or formally object before the effective time would be deemed acceptance. Claire reread it, then leaned closer. Written objection. What about it? It doesn't say live appearance. It says written objection delivered to the corporate secretary. So counsel might preserve your rights without you. If Priya confirms she has authority to transmit on my behalf. I pointed toward the messenger. Then that's our first text when we get Sky. Claire started drafting. No panic. No speeches. Just language precise enough to survive lawyers. At 10:20, the satellite unit chirped. 1 week bar. Claire transmitted. Safe. Weather blocked. Contact Priya Nair. Confirm whether written objection can preserve rights if I cannot attend. Do not disclose location to Adrian. Preserve all requests from him. The bar vanished. We waited. 5 minutes? 10. The reply finally came. Miles, received. Counsel contacted. Adrian asked where you are. I said travel disruption. Will update. Claire read it twice, then placed the messenger down carefully. First door stays open? Exactly. She took another sip of coffee. Black. No sugar. I noticed. You drink it like that? She glanced at my mug. I stopped pretending coffee needed dessert years ago. Good. That sounded judgmental. It was approval. More dangerous. Outside, the wind rose. Inside, something had shifted, not between us, but inside the problem. It had edges now. Claire could work with edges. Before midnight, I checked her hands again. Warm, normal color, no persistent numbness. The insulated bedroom is yours. I said, I stay out here. You're sleeping beside the stove? I'm monitoring it and the generator anyway. You give terrible cabin tours. The online reviews are brutal. Do you have Wi-Fi? No. 1 star. That earned the first real laugh of the night. I left water, a lantern, and another blanket outside the bedroom and returned to the table. A second mug sat on the drying rack beside mine. I reached for it automatically, stopped, and left it there. Then I went back to the weather chart. Saturday morning arrived gray and loud. Claire was already at the table when I came in from checking the porch. My black coffee thermos sat beside the map. She had filled it. You're stealing my job. You made the coffee yesterday. Temporary authority. Revoked? I took the thermos anyway. The satellite unit still showed nothing. Claire had spent the early morning building 2 separation scenarios. Option 1, preserve her objection and fight to keep the division. Option 2, negotiate a clean exit if the board forced the buyout. I read the headings. You plan for losing? I plan for leverage changing. What do you actually want? She tapped the first page. Yesterday, I wanted my division. And today? Her fingers stopped. I want the choice to decide that while I'm not trapped. That was better. I pointed toward the map. Same principle here. She looked at the road. Get me to a phone with choices intact. Exactly. At 11:40, a branch struck the roof. The impact shook snow from the rafters. Claire stood instantly. I was already pulling on my shell. Stay clear of the stove. I checked the interior collar around the stovepipe first. A thin line of meltwater appeared beside it. The roof camera showed a pine limb across the uphill edge. The branch had shifted, flashing, but the roof structure looked intact. Can you fix it? Claire asked. Temporarily. I used the emergency high-temperature patch from the cabin maintenance kit to keep meltwater away from the stove. Claire held the flashlight. Left? 2 inches. Here? Perfect. The drip slowed, then stopped. I climbed down. That holds? Tonight, once the road opens, a roofer inspects the flashing. Claire nodded toward my climbing packs. Good. For a second, I thought expedition guide also meant contractor. I play accordion too. She stared at me. You're lying. Completely. She laughed again. The satellite messenger beeped. Neither of us smiled after Claire read it. Miles. Urgent. Board moved. Emergency vote to Sunday. 6 p.m. Priya says written objection preserves valuation challenge, but company secretary requires verified call for vote participation. Adrian requested advance after asking about your travel status. Claire sat down. Not slowly. As if somebody had cut a wire inside her. Tomorrow. Yes. He moved it because I'm gone. Maybe? Her eyes flashed. You don't believe that? I believe we document what we can prove. The answer irritated her. Good. I wanted her angry at the right target. She opened her laptop. Then prove the timeline. What do you need from Miles? Every message from Adrian, calendar request, metadata on when the vote move was submitted, Priya's written interpretation of the objection clause. She started typing the satellite response. I turned the topo map toward her. While Miles handles that, we build the extraction. Claire stopped. Can we leave tonight? No. Ethan? No. My voice came out harder than I wanted. She went still. I lowered it. The road is ice under fresh snow. Visibility falls after dark, and the steep traverse below the cabin has no margin for an injured knee or failed traction. I will not create a wilderness rescue to beat a boardroom ambush. Her hand flattened on the table. So if the weather stays bad, Adrian wins. Possibly. She looked at me as if I had betrayed the story she wanted to hear. I pointed at the map. You asked for the truth. The wind hit the shutters. Claire closed her eyes for 1 second. Then reopened them. Fine, give me the safe window. I wrote, 4 o'clock weather check. 4:30 ice snow assessment. 5 o'clock earliest departure. 5 miles to state highway. 6 to 7 hours conservative travel. County plow corridor after noon. Hank's Diner, generator plus landline. Claire read every line. Who's Hank? A man who thinks chili is an emergency service. Does the phone work? Usually when civilization doesn't, then he's my favorite person. Dangerously premature. She pulled her chair beside mine. What can I carry? Under 20 pounds. What do you need to know? Old injuries. Left knee, skiing accident in college, stable. Circulation? Normal. Altitude? Fine. Cold injury history? None. I wrote it down. Claire pointed toward the lower highway. What's backup transportation? My friend Daniel Brooks works county road operations. If Miles gets a signal tonight, he can ask Daniel about the plow schedule. Add him. I did. She opened another page. Backup if the road fails. We stay here. Priya preserves the objection. You may lose the live vote. Claire stared at the map. No comforting lie came from me. After a moment, she nodded. Then I need a negotiation plan that works even if I miss it. For the next 2 hours, we worked in parallel. I prepared snowshoes, crampons, ice axes, goggles, food, water, emergency bivy gear, redundant navigation, and a first aid kit. Claire built corporate contingencies. If the board refused to delay, she would challenge valuation. If litigation threatened to tie her up for years, she would trade some payout for a non-compete release and a clean exit. If she left, she would negotiate only lawful client transition rights, no proprietary database, no confidential files, no shortcuts that could poison whatever she built next. By 4, we had options. By 5, we had another satellite signal. Miles confirmed Daniel expected the highway plowed by early Sunday afternoon. Priya had preserved Claire's written objection. Adrian's office had submitted the emergency vote move 12 minutes after Miles declined to disclose Claire's location. Not proof of motive. Enough to preserve. Claire read the timestamp. Her thumb pressed into the edge of the messenger. 12 minutes. Yes. She looked toward the white windows. For 10 years, I thought being indispensable made me safe. The sentence hung there. I did not tell her what it meant. I slid her laptop back toward her. What does the agreement say about non-compete release? Claire looked at the screen, then opened the clause. The next step mattered more than the speech. At 7, she found it. The company could waive the non-compete in a mutually executed separation agreement. Claire sat straighter. That's the door. If they want you gone badly enough, they may pay less. What costs more, the money or 3 years of litigation? She looked at the merger documents. 3 years. Then priced the freedom. Her pencil started moving. Later, when I fitted her snowshoes, she watched every adjustment. Why mark the straps? Cold makes memory unreliable. You label everything. Yes. That explains the coffee thermos. That was your label. She had written in grease pencil, "Ethan, black, do not improve." I turned it toward her. This is defamation. It's quality control. At 9, Claire stood near the window watching the storm. No phone in her hand. No laptop. Just the white dark beyond the glass. I checked the weather instruments. Pressure rising, wind easing. The first good sign in 2 days. Get some sleep, I said. She turned. You? 2 hours, then checks. That isn't sleep. It is during expedition season. Claire considered me. You know what I hate? Several things. That you keep giving me answers I don't want and then they keep being useful. Occupational hazard. She headed toward the bedroom. At the hallway, she stopped. Ethan! Yes? If we make the call tomorrow and I walk away from the company? She paused. I waited. What? Nothing. She shook her head once. 5 a ham? 5. The bedroom door closed. No invitation. No test. Just a woman finally choosing rest because morning would demand everything else. At 4 Sunday morning, the storm had broken. The mountain looked remade. Snow rose to the porch rail, but the wind had dropped below 15 miles per hour. Visibility stretched across the valley. I tested the logging road and dug to the freezing rain layer. Hard ice beneath powder, manageable with steel traction. At 4:20, I came back inside. Claire was dressed. Expedition bibs. Down parka. Gloves. Her laptop sealed inside a waterproof sleeve. She saw my face. We go? We go. The smile that hit her lasted less than a second. Then she reached for the checklist. That almost made me laugh. Rules first. Don't sweat. Good. Stay in your track. Yes. Knee pain gets reported. Yes. Goggles above tree line. Yes. She lifted her pack. And if I say I'm fine while obviously limping, I assume management corrupted the reporting system. Fair. At 5:08 a.m., we stepped into the cold. The first mile was deep powder. I broke trail. Claire followed. 25 minutes moving. 5 minutes checking hands, face, breathing, knee. At the second stop, I handed her black coffee. She took one sip. You carry this down mountains. I carry civilization where possible. My board should hire you. No. That was fast! I prefer avalanches. Also fair. At mile 2, Claire's left stride shortened. Barely. I stopped. Knee. She looked annoyed. 3 out of 10. Sharp? Dull. We shortened her stride and adjusted one trekking pole. 5 minutes later, the gait evened. You could have told me. I was evaluating. You rub your left thumb against the pole when something hurts. Claire looked at her glove. Then at me. You've been watching my hands all weekend? I watch people for hypothermia. Convenient. Accurate. At mile 3, wind had stripped the road to blue ice. I raised my fist. Snowshoes off. We fitted crampons. Claire secured hers using the sequence we had practiced. I inspected visually. Want a second check? Yes. Only then did I crouch beside her boot. Straps correct. I handed her an ice axe. Uphill hand, short steps, weight over the points. She studied the slope below us. Comforting. I wasn't trying to comfort you. I know. Halfway across, a gust hit. Claire's right crampon skated. Her axe struck the ice before I moved. She recovered. Good correction. She did not answer, just kept moving. 30 feet later, we reached sheltered snow. Claire stopped beneath the trees. Her hands shook. Adrenaline, I said. You're very warm as a person. You corrected the slip yourself. That changed her expression. She looked back at the traverse. Not frightened now. Measuring it. I gave her the thermos. 2 minutes. She drank. Then handed it back. Get me to the phone. A quarter mile later, Claire called, Stop! I turned. She pointed at my right boot. Crampon tail. The rear strap had loosened just enough for the end to slap against the buckle. Not failure. Not yet. Still worth fixing before it became one. I planted the axe and reset it. You were watching my feet? I watch people for management failure. That isn't a thing. It is now. I tightened the strap and stood. Claire waited until I tested it twice. Good. Good. Then move. I started forward again, smiling despite myself. Trust turned out to work both directions when you let it. At 11:42, the satellite messenger found signal. 3 messages arrived. Miles, highway plowed. Daniel passes lower gate between 12:30 and 1:30. Miles, written objection, acknowledged 8:02, verified call still required for vote. Then, Miles, Adrian claiming you voluntarily abandoned negotiations. Priya preserved message. Claire read the last line. Her face went still. He's building a record. So do you. She dictated immediately. Preserve every Adrian communication. Priya should attach the county road closure and state weather warning to the file. Ask Ellen Ward to confirm my verified call will satisfy participation. I entered it. Claire tightened her pack straps. How far? 1 mile. Then we stopped giving him minutes. Daniel's county truck appeared at 1:11 p.m. He leaned across and shoved the passenger door open. You two look awful. Claire climbed in. Thank you. Daniel looked at me. She always this friendly? I met her Friday. Claire pointed toward the road. Drive. Daniel grinned. Warm cab. Dry seats. Engine heat blowing across our boots. The first real relief of the day. Cell tower? Claire asked. Still down. Hank? Generator and landline. Daniel handed her a bottle of water. Hank says storms improve pie sales. Claire looked at me. He really is my favorite person. I warned you. At 2:31 p.m. we walked into Hank's diner. The generator vibrated through the floor. Coffee, wet coats, bacon, and chili filled the room. Hank looked at our packs. Phones in the back booth. Claire stopped. You're Hank? Usually. You may be saving 10 years of my professional life. He pointed toward the stove. Chili first. After. She took the receiver. I set my phone face down at the counter and moved away. Her negotiation belonged to her. Hank placed 2 bowls of chili in front of me. You guide her down? She walked herself down. He glanced toward Claire. Good answer. Pieces of her voice carried across the diner. No, Adrian. You don't get to characterize my absence for me. Pause. My written objection was delivered and acknowledged at 8:02. Another pause. I have the receipt in front of me. Claire opened her notebook. You moved the vote after my assistant declined to disclose my location. I'm not debating motive. I'm discussing terms. Hank looked over. So did 3 truckers at the counter. Claire kept her voice level. I am not accepting the reduced equity valuation. Long pause. Then, if the board wants separation today, I will consider it under 3 conditions. I stopped eating. Immediate release from the non-compete. Pause. Mutual non-disparagement. Pause. and written confirmation that non-exclusive clients remain free to contact me independently after separation. I will not take the company database, confidential files, or proprietary materials." Hank whispered. "She quitting?" Negotiating freedom. The call continued. Adrian tried to interrupt. Claire let him finish once. The second time, "If you keep speaking over me, counsel will record that I was denied a meaningful opportunity to respond. Would you prefer that?" Silence. Hank's eyebrows rose. I took another spoonful of chili. At 3:20, Claire covered the receiver. Food. I carried the bowl over. She ate 6 spoonfuls while corporate lawyers argued somewhere down the line. That image stayed with me more than any dramatic speech could have. Snow melting from her boots. Hair still flattened from the goggles. One hand holding a diner spoon. The other holding 10 years of professional leverage on a beige telephone. At 4:41, Priya called Hank's second line. Claire moved between phones. At 5:13, the first revised separation agreement screamed through Hank's fax machine. Claire read every page. Crossed out 2 phrases. Dictated changes. Sent it back. At 5:39, a second version arrived. She found a release paragraph. Stopped. Called Priya. Changed 4 words. At 5:52, the final version came through. Claire read it again. The clock above the counter clicked toward 6. I did not move. Neither did Hank. At 5:57, Claire picked up the receiver. "This is Claire Morgan, subject to counsel's execution instructions. I accept the revised separation agreement effective 6 p.m. today." Pause. No, not retroactive. Another pause. "Put that exact effective time in writing." The fax machine started again at 5:59. Claire checked the page. Signed the acknowledgement. Faxed it back. 6:03. The phone rang. "Priya!" Claire listened. "Executed?" Pause. Confirmed. She closed her eyes. 1 second. Then set down the receiver. Hank slid the chili toward her. "Well?" Claire picked up the spoon. "I'm unemployed." He blinked. She took a bite. "And free to open my own consulting firm tomorrow." A grin spread across his face. "Those sound like different things." "They are." I sat across from her. "What did it cost?" "Less cash than I wanted." "What did you keep?" "Enough equity payout to restart, full non-compete release, mutual non-disparagement, no litigation. Clients can approach me independently, but I take no company list or protected data." "And the division?" "Adrian gets it." The words landed harder than the victory. Claire looked down at the chili. "I built it." "I know." For the first time since Friday, her hands started rubbing the edge of something again. Not a coffee mug. The paper napkin. I let the silence sit. Then asked, "What's the first service your new firm sells?" Claire looked up. The question brought her back faster than comfort would have. "Acquisition integration?" "Second?" "Supply chain diligence?" "Third?" She stared at me. "Cross-border vendor restructuring?" I nodded. "So Adrian gets a department." Claire's fingers stopped on the napkin. "You keep the person who built it." Hank turned away very deliberately and started wiping an already clean counter. Claire looked down once, then laughed under her breath. "Was that almost motivational?" "Don't tell anyone!" "Your reputation is safe?" At 6:18, Miles called the diner. Claire took the phone. I heard his voice leaking faintly through the receiver. "You're alive." "Apparently, and no longer employed." "Correct." "Do I still have a job?" Claire looked at the separation agreement. "Until 8 tomorrow morning, then Priya supervises your access while you collect my personal items. No client files, no copied databases, nothing proprietary." Miles sighed dramatically. "I always wanted my career to end with an inventory checklist." "It isn't ending. I'm going to need an operations coordinator." He went quiet. Claire's expression softened. "Think about it." She said, "New company. Clean start. Your choice." Miles recovered fast. Does the new company have better coffee? Claire looked at my mug. Absolutely not. Then I'll consider the offer. She hung up smiling. One more piece of the old life had become something she could choose instead of something being taken from her. The road to my cabin remained closed Sunday night. Daniel found us separate rooms at the lodge by the highway. Monday morning, Claire was already in the dining room with her laptop open when I came downstairs. Black coffee waited across from her. She pointed toward it. Quality control? I sat. Final agreement? Executed at 7:20. She rotated the screen. Digital signatures. Payout schedule. Non-compete release. Confidentiality carve-outs. Client contact language. No magic phone victory. Paperwork. Trade-offs. Done. What now? Claire opened a blank business registration checklist. This. Name? No idea. You negotiated a corporate separation before naming the new company? I had priorities. Good. She looked at the expedition notebook beside my coffee. You're leaving. 2 weeks. Where? Patagonia, 6-week guide rotation. Claire nodded. Not dramatic. Just information placed somewhere inside her. When are you back? January 19th. She opened her planner. Wrote it down. That small motion hit me harder than I expected. You're scheduling my return? I schedule everything. Dangerous. Claire turned to the following Friday, January 21st. She wrote, Ethan, 7 p.m. I looked at it. What happens at 7? Dinner? Business planning? No. Snow logistics? No. Roofing consultation? Absolutely not. Her eyes met mine. A date. No storm. No corporate dependence. No rescue debt. Nothing left to confuse the question. 7, I said. 7. Use ink. She clicked the pen. Already did. A week later, I was loading expedition duffels behind the outdoor store when Claire crossed the sidewalk carrying a folder and a brass key. I thought you were back in the city. She handed me the folder. State registration receipt. Insurance binder. 6-month office lease above the hardware shop. You move quickly. I spent 10 years making other people's companies efficient. And now, I'm trying it on mine. She held up the brass key. Office? You bought a building? No. 6-month lease. Deposit from my separation reserve. No dramatic property purchase. No financial self-destruction. I looked at her. You rehearsed that? Yes. Hank stepped out of the diner carrying a produce crate. Claire, staying around? For a while. He glanced between us. You two working together? Claire shook her head. No. Then she opened her planner and showed him January 21st. He's my date when he gets back from Patagonia. Hank's eyebrows went up. There it was. Clear. Public. Chosen. I took the brass key when Claire offered it. What's this for? Emergency access. Miles has one. You're the second contact when you're in town. Practical? Completely. And Friday? She smiled. Not practical. I closed my fingers around the key. 2 months later, Patagonia gave me 30-mile winds, 1 broken satellite antenna, 2 nervous clients, and exactly 0 reasons to think about corporate mergers. It was familiar work. Hard. Clean. Predictable in the way mountains are predictable. They never pretend to care what you want. Inside my waterproof notebook, January 21st remained circled. When our team returned to base, a satellite message from Claire waited. New firm signed. First 3 clients. Office roof does not leak. Hank still thinks chili is a business strategy. Friday, 7 p.m. remains active. I read it twice. Then sent, route on schedule. Returning Thursday. Friday confirmed. No grand declaration. Just showing up when I said I would. Friday evening. Light snow moved across town. Nothing like the whiteout that had buried the logging road. I reached Hank's diner at 6:53. Claire was already there. Black coffee waited across from her. My brass emergency key sat beside the mug. I pointed at it. Returning this? No. She slid a second key beside it. Silver. What's that? Building owner replaced the temporary front lock. And? I'm updating emergency access. Miles already has one. Yes. So why do I? Claire pointed toward the clock. 7. Because dinner starts now, and I refuse to spend the first 10 minutes listening to you convert this into a risk management discussion. I said. Hank appeared with 2 menus. Claire looked up at him. Hank, before Ethan finds a loophole, this is a date. Hank nodded. I had gathered. I looked at Claire. She took a sip of black coffee. Outside, snow settled against the diner windows. She had her own firm. 3 clients. Her own lease. Her own money. Her own keys. No practical reason to need an expedition guide. She still saved me a place at 7. That was the part I trusted. The end. Closing thoughts. What stayed with me wasn't the whiteout. It was that after Claire had her own plan and her own firm, she still saved me a place on her calendar. The green flag was simple. Safety first, clear choices, and showing up without taking over. Please like and subscribe so we can share more stories like this.